Welcome into another video. Sorry if I sound a little raspy today. That Bears Commanders game got the best of me last night. You know what time it is. It is Tuesday, so it is power rankings time. We are going into week 7 of the NFL season, a quarter of the season already over. It's sad. It's very so. A third of the season. A third of the fucking season over. That really sucks putting it in that perspective. But we've got a great one in store for you guys today. 9 teams on my list finding themselves at their lowest ranking so far this season, and 9 teams on my list finding themselves at their highest ranking on my list. Just to give you a rundown on the lowest, you could see here of the ones available. You have the Chargers at 11, the Commanders at 17 after their loss to the Bears on Monday Night Football, the 49ers at 18, the Vikings at 19, and the Cardinals at 25, and the Raiders at 26. Now, I know it's tough to drop a team after a win, but I had to do it there. The Commanders, tough loss. The Vikings only dropped because they were on the bye week, and I had the Bears behind them and the Falcons behind them, and their wins were just very significant wins. I had to give them a boost. I think Minnesota very well could, despite their upcoming tough schedule, could find themselves 100% higher on this list in the next coming weeks. The Chargers, even though they won, I boosted them down a spot. A really ugly win, but a resilient win against the Miami Dolphins team who finds themselves at 28. And the ones available who are at their highest here, you have the Giants at 24, their highest rank of the season. Panthers at 21. Bears at 16, their highest rank of the season. The Patriots at 14, and the Steelers at 12. Let's go ahead and get right into it. My top 10 teams heading into week 7, starting off with number 10, the Denver Broncos, dropping down a few spots despite their win in London against the New York Jets. But they're starting to worry me a little bit. You know, they're 4-2, so I cannot complain too much. But there's some cause for concerns here with their offense. They have 3 of their 6 games. I think maybe 4 of their 6 games, actually. They've scored less than 20 points or less. And that Jets defense has, pretty much been able to do nothing all year long. And they struggled immensely. I don't know if Sean Payton needs to give up the play calling or what it is, but they're starting to scare me a little bit. But the defense is so legit. They're finally coming into their own. This was supposed to be the top-rated unit going into the season this year. They're finally starting to look like it. They really are. Nick Bonito, is he the depoy right now? See the depoy? Would this be the first team in NFL history to have back-to-back Defensive Player of the Years when it's 2 separate players? Very good question to ask. Number 9, the Seattle Seahawks finding themselves at their highest ranking of the year, and they're balling, man. They came off a tough loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week, but they bounced back with a huge win over the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road. That was much needed for this team. They got another big Monday Night Football matchup coming up against the Houston Texans. I like Seattle in that one a lot. I think this is a team who is going to find themselves in the wild card this year with the way Sam Darnold is playing football, the way Jackson Smith-Njigba looks, the way their defense is working in Mike McDonald's system. It's beautiful. I love it. Another team finding themselves at their highest ranking so far this season, and that is the Indianapolis Colts coming in at number 8. Another win, 5-1 now with Danny Dimes, and he just puts up another performance. Against the Arizona Cardinals. I know it's Jacoby Brissett, but regardless of all of that, they're rolling. They're playing damn good football. They have one of the most sound rosters in the NFL, truly. Offensively, they're very spread out. Jonathan Taylor looks like the second best running back in football this year behind Bijan Robinson. I think this might be pushing it because, like I said, I need to get into like week 10, week 11 before I start truly buying into Dimes. But I think I'm going to go out there and say I think they're going to be a lock for the postseason this year. 5-1. I'm liking it. I'm going to go ahead and out there and they say that they're a lock. Number 7, the Philadelphia Eagles finding their lowest ranking of the season at number 7, dropping down just an inexcusable loss. Your roster, toe for toe, much better than the New York Giants. I know it's a divisional game. I know I've said time after time after time that these divisional games are always a crapshoot, but this is kind of a different story. Your roster is across the board: running back, quarterback, receiver room, offensive line. You could give the edge to defensive line for the Giants, but defense in general, you give to the edge to the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's just an abysmal loss. They had that players only meeting. Everybody thought they were going to get right back on track. No, they didn't. And they lost to the New York Giants in prime time. One of the more probably depressing losses, one of the more sad losses in recent memory for the Philadelphia Eagles. They have the Minnesota Vikings coming up this Sunday. That's going to be a very interesting matchup because Minnesota, no slouches in any way, shape, or form. Like I was just saying earlier, I have them at the lowest that I've had them this season, and it's strictly because they were on the bye and teams behind them had some really important wins. I had to give those teams a boost, but they're going to give Philadelphia a run for their money. There's no doubt in that. So Philadelphia needs to wake up. They need to get right against the Minnesota Vikings. There's no doubt about it there. Next up, number 6, the Detroit Lions slipping down after a big loss. Not a big loss, 13-point loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now we're sitting here looking at the Lions. I'm not saying they're fraudulent, but two biggest teams that they faced this year, they didn't show up, and they've kind of steamrolled some pretty poor teams. Like I said, I think that they were going to peak at 2 in my list. I had them at 2 in my list. I thought that was going to be their peak. I even said that I expect them to take a drop down this season. Regardless, it's still a playoff team, still such a sound football roster, really, top to bottom, still a solid offensive line. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. Defensively, their secondary is, going to be missing Brian Branch next week. Terrion Arnold has really not lived up to the hype in any way, shape, or form. Kirby Joseph had a terrible game against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. They've got to figure some stuff out within their secondary, and Brian Branch is going to be a big loss for them. And now they got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday night. I'm not saying it's a must-win game for them, but it's a big game. You get that win, that gets your season right back on track. You come back to looking like one of the more powerhouse teams in the NFC, but you lose that game to the Buccaneers. There's going to be a lot more question marks, popping up across the board. Let's go ahead and get into my top five, and we're going to kick it off with the Green Bay Packers at number 5. Not necessarily a beautiful win against the Cincinnati Bengals. I thought the Bengals kind of made it a little bit closer than I was expecting, but overall, Green Bay was in control for the entire game. The second half, the Bengals won the second half, but Green Bay was in control for the entirety of the game. Jordan Love still playing very good football. Matthew Golden slowly but surely starting to become a big part of their offense. And like I said, looking at their upcoming schedule here, you got the Cardinals this upcoming weekend. Then you go to Pittsburgh. It's not looking as easy like it once was going to. And then you got Carolina. Like I said, I expect them. I think they're going to go 3-0 in that stretch. Pittsburgh's going to be a great matchup. It's going to be a Sunday Night Football game. That's going to be very exciting. But they should roll the Cardinals. They should roll the Panthers. And even if they do lose to Pittsburgh, that still puts them at 5-2-1 after these next 3 games. I have them at 6-1-1. I think the Packers, like I said, I had this team winning the North this year. I think this is when they're going to truly start finding their footing here in this little stretch here. Number 4, my lowest ranking of the season. That's the Buffalo Bills. They've got a lot to figure out in this bye week. It's a good thing that the bye week came now because like I said, they've got a lot to figure out offensively. They struggle to get guys open. They made it work last year with no true threats in their wide receiver room, but you can kind of tell it's starting to weigh on them. Their guys aren't really getting open. Like I said, they lack separation. I'm a fan of Khalil Shakur. I think Keon Coleman has showed, some much needed flashes this year, but maybe it is starting to weigh on them. Maybe I got way too bought into the Josh Allen can do it all by himself hype, and I don't know. Bye week, Panthers after that. I'm not, the Panthers are definitely not the Panthers of old. They beat the Cowboys this week. I have them at 21 now. They're slowly but gradually making their way up the ranks. But you got to beat the Panthers after the bye. I'm still liking Buffalo for the future. Don't worry about it. Number 3, back into my top 3, Los Angeles Rams. Nice win over the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they're going to lose Puka here for potentially a couple weeks, and that could be scary. And their schedule isn't for the weak. Jaguars, Saints, 49ers. It's not going to be the easiest of tasks, but I think this is a team that's going to go 3-0 in that stretch. I think they can beat the Jaguars. I like them in London, 8:30 in the morning. Matt Stafford, he'll go in there. He'll get it done. I like them over the Saints, of course. They've been giving teams battles, but I like the Rams to prevail in that one. And then I like them in a revenge game against the 49ers, who have lost their 2 best defensive players this year and just cannot get over the injury bug. Blows my mind how injured they are. I like the Rams to go 3-0 in their next 3 games, putting them at 7-2 after that stretch. Let's move on to my number 2 team, my highest ranking of the year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, baby. Baker Mayfield, probably the favorite right now to win MVP. I'm probably still going to put my money on Mahomes, but Baker Mayfield is balling. I mean, that second half, they prevailed there. They didn't have Emeka Egbuka, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, or Jalen McMillan. They've been battling the injury bug in their wide receiver room all season. They haven't had Bucky Irving now for multiple games, and they are still finding ways to win. Their defense and Todd Bowles throwing some very exotic shit out there, making, Mac Jones is Mac Jones, but he's been looking pretty promising in the San Francisco offense. Todd Bowles just was having their way with them. Buccaneers are rolling, man. They're no slouches. They are no slouches. And number 1, it's crazy. I'm putting them at number 1. I am. I going into this season, I was very high on the Kansas City Chiefs, and I feel like I just let the media narrative get the best of me after that Monday Night Football game, and I had them much lower last week. I still had them going to the AFC Championship this year and losing to Buffalo. They're looking like the Super Bowl favorites right now. I know that they've jumped up in those odds in Vegas as the Super Bowl favorites, which I understand. I get it. This team just find ways to win. They're getting Rashee Rice back. Rashee Rice. Mahomes looks like Mahomes of 2018, of 2022. Like I knew he was going to. I was saying it all off season long. He was my MVP prediction before the season started, and I let the media narrative get the best of me. I should have never had this team outside of my top 5. And when I did that, I just every time it just felt gross to have them outside of my top 5. And I'm getting ballsy enough, and I'm putting them at number 1. I don't give a shit what people say. Oh, your week to week narratives change. I don't care. I'm not putting the fucking Chiefs outside of my top 5 the rest of this year until I'm convinced, absolutely convinced that is not a top 5 football team. I'm not worried about it. Chiefs in my top 5. There you have it. 1 through 32 following week 6 and leading into week 7. Comment down below what you think I should change, what you do like, what you don't like, and I'll hear you guys out and talk to you guys next week. Peace.